The whales begin to move. SaaStr Annual announces dates for an IRL event in 2021. Vaccine card fraud begins. Listings on eBay sell vaccination cards for $10.99. US media coverage of COVID found to be overwhelmingly negative in comparison to the rest of the world. That and more on the Future of Events briefing. This morning, Jason Lemkin announced that SaaStr Annual will be coming back to the San Francisco Bay Area in 2021. That's right. SaaStr Annual is coming back in 2021. This is a conference that is typically around 10,000 people. According to this article on Hacker News, it wasn't too easy to find actual figures, but official figures. But this article says that around 10,000 people come to the IRL events. And on the website, it's showing that the dates are September 27th to 29th. They're saying that there's going to be 50,000 cloud and SaaS hybrid attendees. So what does this mean? If the IRL events are typically 10,000, their online events are many multiples of that, of course, as free events and just as events that don't have the same restrictions, that don't have the same physical restrictions. They're obviously going to have a lot more. But how many people are actually going to show up? How many people are actually going to make the trip? There's still a lot of restrictions in terms of capacity limits, in terms of the venues, and restrictions from the government and health officials. So it'll be really interesting to see, number one, where they're going to host this. Right now, they're saying that it's in the SF Bay Area. I don't know where they wrote this. Let's see, on their YouTube video, it says September 27th to 29th, SF Bay Area. So it looks like they don't have a specific location yet. They may not even have a venue yet. I imagine that the team over at Annual is going to be doing a lot of negotiations with both the governments, local governments, and the venues themselves to try and find the venue that is going to be most favorable to them and having the probably the most lenient cancellation restriction. This is going to be something that they're really going to need to get right. Rushing an event like this, I'm not entirely sure that this is the right call. I'd love to learn more from their team about what their thought process is and how they came to this conclusion. Is it because they just need the money, or is it because they feel that this is the right time? To me, it feels a little rushed, so it'll be interesting to see how they explain themselves here and what more information is coming out, because right now on the website, there's really not that much information there. The only really thing that is giving you a lot of somewhat confidence is that Jason is saying that vaccines are required, so get your shots. But of course, according to the blueprint for a safer economy, even if you're vaccinated, there are some strict maximums for a number of attendees that can come. Now, that said, this blueprint activity for a safer economy is as of April 15th, 2021. And I believe we are still in the moderate tier. Let me get back to that tier. California is still, the Bay Area is still mostly in the moderate tier. Some areas are actually in the substantial tier as well. But it'll be interesting to see where we are in the summer and in September to see if SaaStr Annual will actually be going forward and what the results will be. Also curious to see what the sponsorship is like and how many sponsors are going to be interested in actually participating in this event. Conferences obviously are extremely expensive, and you're going to need to secure sponsors. So we'll see what the Annual team does in the coming weeks and the coming months. Moving on to the next topic, because although Jason's saying that vaccine cards are required, this comes at a time when vaccine fraud is starting to become prevalent. Uh, Vaccine cards are now being listed on eBay for $10.99, sold by a pharmacist in the Chicago area. It's illegal, of course, but he already has he's already sold 100 plus apparently. And so there are many problems with this in terms of the card and authenticating it, because as of now, as I understand it, there is no way to authenticate this card. People are posting it all over social media. It's really easy to replicate, and now there are actual people trying to make a living on this, or at least make a little bit of extra money. I don't understand why someone would risk their freedom and reputation for $11 a pop if you've only sold 100 of those. It's kind of ridiculous in my opinion in terms of just what the financial incentive is. Obviously, from the social costs, it's absolutely insane to be doing. But of course, we know that, in this wild world we're living in, there are some crazy, insane people out there. And people that we perceive as insane. This person may believe that they are sane because maybe they're thinking, this is an encroachment on my liberties. People do hold those opinions these days, and we need to account for that. I mentioned this on my podcast with Henri Helvetica the other day. And as sad as it is, this is the world we live in, and this is the lowest common denominator we need to cater to. The vaccine passports, of course, it's really difficult and perhaps impossible right now to get a central registry for a number of reasons. Number one, HIPAA is going to prevent us from requiring people to expose their medical records. And this is something that we cannot just flippantly overrule. HIPAA is paramount to one's trust in the medical institutions and the doctor-patient relationship, and creating an atmosphere of safety and security. So we can't just overrule HIPAA, and we can't just throw that out the window. That's not going to be going good going forward. So something that we do that we could do that helps us to move forward with this, to create this registry, is to just make it opt-in, right? And this is something that we'll have to actually backtrack to because we rolled out the vaccine rollout so quickly. But if this is opt-in and says, yes, I want to be part of the registry, then they'll get added to the registry, and then that would be public information. But the main problem with that is that we know that databases are always hacked, right? There are many, many cases throughout history, especially recent history, where massive data breaches caused great harm. Experian, Target, so many others. I'm not going to name any others, but because I can't remember any offhand. But these are serious problems. And as far as I know, the most secure thing is going to be the blockchain. Bitcoin famously has not been hacked. The blockchain of Bitcoin has not been hacked. Apparently, it gets stronger the longer it exists because of the competition between the miners, and the algorithms get stronger and stronger over time. Now, all you Bitcoin aficionados and technical experts, I don't know that much about Bitcoin, so if I'm getting that a little bit wrong, please leave a comment in the below, educate me, but that's how I understand it right now. However, the main problem with blockchain and Bitcoin and all these other decentralized technologies is the proof of work, is that the way that the blockchain is secured and authenticated is through work that computers put up, which involves massive amount of resources, which creates a massive amount of electricity drain and suck, which is a massive carbon footprint. So if we want to create a blockchain that authenticates vaccination records for the entire global population, that is going to accelerate global warming substantially, and just cause a lot of power suck just to authenticate this. So perhaps there is another form of blockchain that we can adopt. There are blockchains that require proof of stake. Not sure if this will be able to apply to something that's not a monetary transaction. That's something that we'll need to do a little bit of research on. If you know more about that, please let me know in the comments. But for now, I personally take issue with a central database for this simply because of the propensity for hacking. And we know that the government is not always the best at hiring the right contractors to create robust systems, software systems. A lot of times these are poorly designed. The California medical, Covered California is a famous example of them rolling out this website that cost millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars, and then it just didn't work, and it was down for everyone. And the UX was extremely poor, and it just caused so many delays for so many people. So that is definitely something that needs to be addressed with regard to validating and authenticating vaccine passports, but it's an ongoing discussion that will continue to take place. Separately, the Bill Maher went on a epic rant, and it went pretty viral right now. 2.3 million views of his video on Twitter, talking about the U.S. media coverage of COVID and how negative it is compared to the rest of the world. And this is a study that the New York Times reported, that the COVID coverage is extremely negative compared to the rest of the world. And what Maher is doing is he's linking this to a Gallup survey that basically says that Democrats did much worse than Republicans in the question, what are the chances that someone who gets COVID will need to be hospitalized? Now, if you haven't seen this video, I want you to think about that before I give you the actual answer. Or if you're watching the video, you can see it. Well, the true answer is between 1% and 5% of people who get infected with COVID, or people who get COVID, will need to be hospitalized. Only 1% and 5% of people, all people. But in this survey, over 40% of Democrats answered that 50% and up of people will need to be hospitalized. And so while correlation does not equal causation, Maher is making the argument here that the extreme negativity and the, blood in the streets mentality that the U.S. media is famous for, is really leading to this. And they're not being truthful, they're not being forthcoming with the information about the virus and how deadly it is, how it's affecting people. And so this was a really interesting take. If you have a moment, I would suggest watching that segment. It's quite interesting. But the media is going to need to take responsibility for this. If we want to move forward as a society, we need to be forthcoming with the actual facts. What are the facts, and what can we do about that? For example, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. So it was administered to over 7 million people, but only 6 women, I believe, had symptoms of blood clots, and they take it off the market. That to me seems like, okay, either they're doing something really stupid and creating additional fear and panic among the public about these vaccines, reducing the public's confidence in the vaccines, or they know something that they're not telling us. And as Maher is pointing out, they don't really have a good track record of being straight and forthcoming with us. So perhaps they do know something about the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, but hey, I'm speculating here. And just by saying this, I'm contributing to the negative perception of the virus and the vaccine. So, but going back to what Mar's point is that they need to be forthcoming with us. They can't be holding this information from us. They have to stop treating the US population, the global population, like children. We can get through this together, but only if we look at the facts impartially, and really get to grips on what's actually going on. Okay, so that's it for today's briefing. We'll be back with more news on the state of the events industry and as it relates to COVID, on how we can move forward into the future of events.